Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Apps Bookselling University. We're doing, today we're going to do BSU 122, which is marketing and leveraging your audiobooks to sell your other books, products, and services. I'm Becky Parker-Geist, and I'm going to be your host today. I am the owner of Pro Audio Voices and the president of Bay Area Independent Publishers Association, and also president of BNI Professional Connections. And let's jump right in. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to first talk about setting goals and then move into pre-production planning for your audiobook, leveraging your audiobook production, that's the actual production process, and then pre-production marketing, things you can do before you actually move into the production part. Creating assets for post-launch. So when you're in that position where your book has launched, and but there are going to be things that you'll need during the production process for that. How to use our metadata effectively so that we're getting the best bang for our time. And then also some post-launch opportunities. So let's jump into your goals. In all this audiobook work, I always encourage authors and publishers to first take a look at your goals, set some goals so you know when you have actually achieved them, and give you a really clear direction. Setting your goals in advance helps you in the decision-making process. And this is especially true when you want to use your audiobook as a leverage point to sell your other products and services. So let's get some clarity in the beginning of the process as to what your goals are. You may probably have financial goals, and often this is one of the number one goals when we're looking at how to leverage the audiobook, but not entirely. So financial goals could include royalties from the audiobook, but they may also include increased cross sales of other formats of your book. They could be cross sales of other products or services that you offer. For example, one of my clients, a financial planner, was using his audiobook as a way to increase visibility, discoverability for his financial planning services. And that's where he was making his primary income. That's just an example. Let's look at audience. Who are you trying to reach? With your products and services that you have, that you're trying to sell and market, which can include your audiobook, obviously. What audience are you not yet reaching, or would you like to reach more effectively that are in the audiobook world? Well, obviously, some of these people may be vision impaired or blind. Some of these people are so busy or are traveling a lot. If you have a book or a product or service that will really help somebody who's very busy but is actively engaged in learning, audiobooks are a fantastic way to reach those people. You may be looking at some career goals. Are you wanting to build up a speaking career? Is that one of the services that you provide? Or is your speaking career part of your expansion of some other product or service that you provide, and you're using your speaking engagements as a way to reach multiple people at the same time? These are the kinds of questions you want to ask when you're thinking about your career goals for your audiobook. Engagement is we're talking about engaging with your audience. We're also talking about marketing your other products and services, and how do these pieces interact? What are your goals in terms of what do I want my audiobook to achieve in terms of sales for my other products and services? So that's one piece. There are things, for example, you might have a really strong desire to have a very interactive experience with your audience, which can really, you can do some amazing and exciting things with your audiobook that can help bring people to your website and where you can then engage with them more on a more personal or more direct level. So these are some of the things I want you to take a look at as you're getting started. Set up some goals for yourself so you know where you're going, and your decision making will be much easier. Now we're going to move into planning for the pre-production. I want you to always remember your top priority is creating a great listener experience. Whether you're dealing with fiction or nonfiction, it doesn't matter. Your most important goal in terms of the production piece should always be creating a great listener experience. There are reasons for this, obviously. Not only is it a nice thing to do for your listeners, but if you're trying to, none of us want to have somebody who gets turned off by what we're doing, right? We always want to, we're trying to engage with them. We're trying to provide something that they enjoy. And so the listener experience is so important. Some of the things that we're going to be talking about today include things like including within the context of the audiobook, you may have a recommendation to go to your website to see something else, or to where you're going to provide some added value. Well, if you did that every 5 minutes, go to my website, you're going to turn off your listener. You're negatively impacting your listener experience. Even if what you're providing on your website may be added value, it would be too much to do something like that so frequently. So just if you have in your mind that your most important thing as your in terms of the production part is to create a great listener experience, that will help guide your decisions. Now, opportunities within the manuscript, especially if you have a nonfiction book, the opportunities typically abound. And they can be anything from a graph or an illustration to worksheets or exercises, or some piece of, let's say, a chart with information that's going to change over time. An example was with this financial planner. He had statistics in his book that were like government statistics. Well, those are going to change year to year. And rather than having his audiobook become obsolete with that piece of information in that particular aspect, we used the opportunity to provide on his website the current statistics. So that means he could just change it out as the statistics updated, and his audiobook would remain current. All right. So again, these opportunities within the manuscript, so if we think about visual elements, that's one aspect, but there are many other things as well. We had a client who did a book called Hidden Blessings, and this was about the midlife crisis, and how it can be a spiritual experience. And in there, she had worksheets and exercises that really needed more time. They were the kind of thing that work well in the context of a printed text, but did not work so well in the context of an audiobook. If you imagine, again, think listener experience. Imagine your listener is driving in the car, and now you're asking them to close their eyes and think about this thing. Well, that's not a good idea, obviously. We don't want them closing their eyes. But even if they had kept their eyes open, still, it's many of these exercises were things that would take some time to think about. And so were created added value by offering those through her website. The other thing too, and I've mentioned this in part a few times already, but focus your call to action within your audiobook, assuming that you're going to put in something like visit the website for this added value thing. If you want that in a central location, you want it in a website or some web URL that you can control, and you can keep that information up to date. And this is so important because if you're sending people all over the web to go find you in different places, so this is probably a poor example, but if, let's say, you said, check this out in my print book, it's available over here at Barnes and Noble. Oh, and then you, a little bit later on, you said, check out my ebook for this thing, and it's available on Kindle. You're sending people to all different places. Well, what happens if you you need to change something, or one of the retailers changes something? Suddenly, you have sent your listener to some place that you have no control over, and you can't. So now your book has gone obsolete in that piece of information. It's not up to date, and you could create a negative listening experience if somebody actually follows that direction or that encouragement and goes to a place where the information is no longer available. So by sending them all to a central location, your website, you maintain control over the information, and you can keep your audiobook up to date. There are structural opportunities in the audiobook production. These can include things like your about the author. Even if you didn't have an about the author in a print or ebook edition, you should definitely add one in your audiobook. And you can add things within that about the author. The most important piece is that central location, is your website. Make sure that you give your listeners a place to reconnect with you. And when you're leveraging your audiobook to sell other books and products and services, that is especially important. And so we want to be looking for the ways that you can provide that added value to your listener for within the context of the structure of your book. That could also include downloadable products that you sell. It could be services that you sell, worksheets, and it could even include things such as, let's say, for example, you have a book, whether fiction or nonfiction, that has the potential to be very interactive, like a game. Maybe the story of the book leads the listener to a place where if they go to your website, then they can do something that may impact the next part of their listening experience. It's a much more, that is not something that we see very frequently, but there's an opportunity there. And the trick with something like that is just think creatively about the whole listener experience. So you don't want to be in a situation where you're sending somebody to your website and they're driving in their car and they can't go. But if you think through what are some possible fun ways that you can engage them and implement those, again, this is all going to go back to what are your goals. If your goals are very heavily on getting people to your website and engaging with them very interactively, something like that, some kind of game that's incorporated carefully within the context of your audiobook might be a really nifty idea. So something to consider. And then the preparing the assets or the website with that added value material, that is very, very important. Whatever in your pre-production planning, whatever you determine you're going to need, that could be the worksheets, other downloadable items, whatever those things are that you're going to say you're going to provide, make sure that you do. One of the worst things you could do is say you're going to provide them and then not deliver, right? And remember also that as time goes on, as long as your audiobook is live, whatever you've said is going to be on your website needs to stay there, right? If you take it off your website because you think, I don't need this anymore, whatever, then you are making a promise somewhere that you may have forgotten about, but but you've made a promise somewhere, and you need to make sure that you are delivering on that, because you're building trust by delivering on the promises that you make. All right, now as we move into the actual audiobook production, some of these things we've touched on a little bit, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper with them. Visual elements, charts, graphs, things like that. First of all, yes, you can just say they were available over on your website, but you can, I like to first evaluate each piece. Let's say you have a chart in your book, and the chart might be providing new information. It might be a visual representation of what you have already stated in the text. If it's new information, then it is helpful to narrate that information. So you're going to need to write a description of what that chart is telling you. And any chart can, well, most visual elements can be providing a range of different kinds of information. And you know what you would like, what the point is, what the focus of that visual element is there for, what's the point it's trying to make. And make sure that your description is highlighting the points that you're trying to make with it. So so look at your visual elements, figure out, even like a photo, you may be having this, sunset over the water, and your book's about photographic techniques, although that's maybe not a likely offering for an audiobook. On the other hand, who knows? It could be. Depends on how you put it together. But you may be wanting to highlight in the visual how the filter is, the camera filter is changing the photo. So you're describing what those different qualities are that you would point out. Let's say if you had somebody in front of you and they can't see the difference, right? So you'd actually be describing to them so they can see the difference. That's essentially what you would be doing. With exercises and worksheets, we did cover these. There are also moments or some exercises, some kinds of worksheets where the audience, the listener, does not need a lot of time in order to do the exercise. That really they can kind of do it in their head briefly. So in a case like that, it might be more effective to add a little bit of music just to give them the short amount of time that they need, or even just give them silence and let them know that you're doing that, right? Always think listener experience. Don't lose them in the process. They might make an assumption that they're going to have to skip over that part. But if you add a sentence in that says, we're going to give you time after each question to think about the answer so that we can, anyway, you want to craft that sentence to give them the instruction on what to do. There's a similarity with your visual elements. You could just create the text and pretend there's no visual element there. Or you could actually say, there's a chart here, and what it's telling you is, right? And I'm not saying that that's the language, but I'm saying that you can craft into your description what it is that they would otherwise be seeing. That's perfectly fine. Okay, then bonus material. So this is where you may be adding some other kinds of material, either to the audiobook or to the website, right? You could have, for example, with fiction, if you're already blogging backstory and other, character information and that kind of thing, which is a great thing to do for those fiction authors out there. There may be ways in the context of your story to refer to those so that listeners know that they could go and listen to that. Now, again, coming back to listener experience, we don't want to interrupt the story for them. And we also don't want them to feel like they're missing out if they don't do that right now. Imagine always, I was just imagine my listeners are driving, because that's the context in which, first of all, many people are listening, but it's also a context in which they can't really do anything else. You can't really direct somebody to go somewhere else on the web at that moment. But there are ways that you can, or there are moments and ways in which you can suggest that there is more for them available at this other place. And of course, you wouldn't want to do that in the middle of a chapter, for example, right? If it's fiction, probably not, unless you have your goals are such that there may be a reason. So I don't want to rule it out, but we want to think listener experience. We don't want to ruin the story for them. We want them fully engaged in the story. And then, okay, this is especially when you're leveraging other books, products, services. You may have other items of interest, like those things, right, on your website, and especially with nonfiction, but it can be true with both, that you have things that your listener would really like to know about. And your job in this pre-production process and looking at the manuscript and how it's going to narrate and where are your opportunities, you want to figure out the best places to let them know about it. With fiction writers, sometimes that's in your about the author section. It could be just there. But somehow you want to make sure that you're providing that full value. I also want to say another potential with your bonus material is something like an interview with the author, an interview with the narrator. It could be an interview of the author by the narrator. So there's a lot of different possibilities that you can add at the tail end of your story or your book, your audiobook. And then metadata crossover. Here is where what I want you to think about is if you're finding your keywords, and with your keywords, you want words that are what we usually call long tail keywords. So that's like little phrases that people type in when they're searching for stuff like what you have to offer, right? If you just put in the search term, for example, audiobooks, so many people are searching using that one word that it's not going to help you any. But if you have audiobooks for kids about firefighters, for example, well, that search is going to be, fewer people are searching for that, which means that you're going to be able to, you're more likely to show up at the top of that search if you use those words all together in that phrase. And there are many different ways to do that research. We'll talk about that a little later. But when I talk about metadata crossover, I'm really talking about using your metadata that is related to the products and services that you're offering on your website to help point to your audiobook and help your audiobook metadata point to your other products and services. Think about them as a whole team, and together they're passing the ball between them so that they are all helping each other show up. Right. So you want to think about how they relate to each other, but you don't want to necessarily be using all the same keywords for all of those, because in essence, then you're kind of competing with yourself. But finding the variations and using them to help each of your products and services rank, and also, again, referring through links, referring through metadata, keywords from one product and service to the other and to your audiobook. These are valuable pieces for you. Okay, and then other things before you actually launch into the production, or as you're launching into production, or while you're in that process, there are many things that you can do. Obviously, we're all talking about social media because it's one of the biggest ways that we're now communicating with each other. And you have stuff that you can talk about even before the book is ready and launched, the audiobook, because you're in a process. And so you can share what that process is like. You can do the same thing in your blog. And as you set up your goals, those goals are going to help guide what kind of buzz you want to create here. And your pre-production plan, now that once you've done that, then you know what your book is going to offer and include. So those are things that you can then refer to and use those in the context of your own marketing for your other products and services. You may have a podcast. Well, if you have a podcast, this is a perfect opportunity to start from your audiobook producer, ask for some little clips that you can use in your podcast series. You can also leverage your existing offerings to market the audiobook. And so, for example, on your website, you have, you're selling various other books, and maybe you have a coaching practice, and this is your main focus. And because you have these products and services available, you can use them. This is in sort of that cross marketing with the metadata, for example, as one piece of that. You can use those to start creating this buzz for the audiobook, which is in it, as it launches, is going to feed back some of that buzz going the other direction. One really great thing, more and more marketers are really focused on not just assuming or guessing what your audience is looking for, but actually asking them. Ask them and use the words that they use to describe what you're providing, if in fact they do. The idea is use their language so that they recognize it. That goes back again to keywords. What are the words that people are searching on to find content like yours? And you can ask them not only what they're looking for in an audiobook or related to your products and services, but you might ask them what they would like if they were to be one of the first people to buy your audiobook. What would they want as a bonus? Or give them a couple options that you could provide, right? And then you could send out when the book launches. You can offer however many of those you want to offer to the first buyers. Having your book launch and then immediately get several sales is really helpful. And make sure that you're encouraging people, that you're asking them for reviews and ratings, because that will help you a lot. And then another thing that you can do as the beginning of your audiobook is produced and approved by you, then you could share the first chapter or a piece of a chapter, or if you have a sidebar from that first chapter or anywhere in the book, you can use that as a way to start generating that buzz about your upcoming content. During the production process, you will also be wanting to create those kinds of audio clip assets for your post-launch, and even for, as I just described, in the process of production, you can get some early pieces so that you can use those. Using them in social media is great, and I strongly encourage that. You can also use them on your website, and the additional media besides just media rather than just text, like audio and video, are increasingly in the search engines really valuable. So, and one of the other things with your audio clip is that you can then create video trailers. Well, you don't have to do anything super elaborate. You can do simple, the image of your cover, your book cover, and a clip of the audio from the audiobook, and post that on YouTube. But don't just post it without a description. or it won't do you any good at all, right? So there's really power and value in YouTube description opportunities. So when you create your video and you post it, make sure that your description is helping you with your keywords, with your, use that description in an organic way to boost its potential to be found as people are searching on YouTube. So, and I just want to highlight how valuable this can be. You can also then, once you have that YouTube posted, you can embed that on your website. And then in your YouTube description, make sure that you refer to your website. Make sure you include that link. Make sure you include the links to your social media pages within the context of your description on YouTube. And they can be at the end. You can just like how to connect with the author, that kind of thing. That's totally fine. You don't have to write that within the context of a paragraph. But that is really an effective way to use YouTube as a way to increase your website's visibility because you have video on it, increase the connections between YouTube and your website. And then when the audiobook launches, you're going to want to go back into your video trailer description and add in those retail links. That's one of the things we do with our audiobook marketing package is we create these videos for our authors, and then we include all the retail links and optimize their description on YouTube. Also, make sure when you do your title of your video, if you can get your top keywords in there, that in the title, that's powerful. Titles with keywords are one of the most powerful places you can have them. And then if you, based on your plan for the production, if you are offering bonus materials on your website, no matter what they are, this is the time to make sure that you actually have created those. And because you've planned them out in advance, you have some time, right, to get those created, make sure they look nice, make sure that they're on the website, get whatever help you need in terms of getting them onto your website if you are not working with the back end of your website on a regular basis. Okay. Now, I keep coming back to metadata because when we're talking about leveraging our marketing and cross sales, it is so important. It's core to the process. So again, I'm going to emphasize the cross sales metadata, making sure that you're linking and that you're between your different products and services, and also that your metadata is working in your favor. Again, not the words that are getting huge numbers of hits because everyone's searching for them are not that helpful for you. You may want to include them, but you're really looking for ones that are getting fewer searches and probably longer strings of words that are really closely honed for your particular products and services, and the variants on those in your family of products and services. Okay, your audiobook, your print book, for example. The YouTube opportunities, I talked a lot about that already. I just want to say, so it's not hard to set up a YouTube channel. Many people already have one, and you may already have one. And I would encourage you to go check your descriptions. They can be updated at any point, and go check your descriptions. Make sure that you are using your metadata in those YouTube videos. And you may have, if you have other products and services that are not on YouTube, but you might like to have them there, creating a simple video that allows you, again, to use the description, leverage that description, can be helpful. Researching keywords, there are several ways to do that. So one of the ways is through, like if you have a Google AdWords account, you can search through that or use that account as a way to check out some potential keyword responses. But I work with some SEO specialists, and the recommendations that I received from them, for one thing, you can use, there are a few different keyword research tools if you use Chrome, Google Chrome, and there are keyword extensions. So you're looking for Chrome extensions that will show you information about how many times people are searching because with these different keywords. So that's one way. There's also something called, they just use the word suggest. If you go to Google, for example, and you type in the beginning of a keyword phrase, a whole bunch of suggestions are going to come up. Well, those suggestions give you an idea of those are probably searched on more than the phrases that don't show up. So that's one way to search, and you could do the same in other places. I understand that from many sources that doing that kind of searching on Amazon rather than Google can be particularly beneficial, because Amazon Suggest is very helpful. And then also you can do the same thing in YouTube, especially if you're going to be present in YouTube, which I strongly encourage. Doing YouTube Suggest can be helpful in getting a sense of the volume, the kinds of strings of phrases that you should be looking at. It is helpful to have some program like the keyword extensions on Chrome to give you some numbers rather than just looking at the list of words that are suggested and making assumptions about how many times those are searched. Again, Amazon Suggest is a great place to be doing some keyword research, and then looking at like a Chrome extension that can be helpful to you in that way. Okay. Oh, it just occurred to me to mention one other thing is, assuming that you already have ISBNs for your book, ebook, print book, ebook, audiobook, and you can have a couple of those for your audiobook. Then on Bowker, there are opportunities to make sure that your metadata, you have opportunities with your metadata there. And so you can also use that as a place to make sure you've got some good keywords in there. Okay, post-launch opportunities. So once your audiobook has launched, you have several possibilities here. I'm always going to encourage you to go non-exclusive with your audiobook. The only place that even asks you to go exclusive is, of course, Amazon, Audible. But I suggest don't go exclusive, because when you have the ability to sell your audiobook directly from your own website, for example, even though most people are going to get it through the retail channels, it gives you the opportunity to do some bundling. So you could maybe bundle your audiobook with a service that you offer, or another edition of your book, for example. There are then opportunities to offer discounts, and that could be anything from get the audiobook and we'll, as a result, we'll discount something on another product or service or format of the book on our website. So a lot of different possibilities, and there are so many possibilities. I'm not going to try and list all the ones I can think of, but I'm sure that if you've got multiple products, then you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. And this is really, again, you're looking at what are my goals. So if you know what your goals are, then you can structure your discounts, your bundling to achieve those goals, right? Those are why those decisions early on are so important. Contests. You can offer contests through social media. They could be contests that will then win a copy of your audiobook. When your audiobook launches through Audible, they will give you 25 free download codes, and you will definitely want to use those. You want to leverage those to both get reviews and then also to sell more of the audiobooks. So in ways like running contests and offering a free copy through Audible or something like that. You can also offer a free copy from your own website. But I'm just saying that there are ways that you want to use those codes to your advantage. Leverage them. Don't just think, oh, okay, I'll just give them to all my family and friends, and maybe one of them will review my book. No, don't use them like that. If you give it to a family or friend, that's fine, but make sure that they are going to give a review to your book or to your audiobook. Okay, and then promotions. Of course, the difference between marketing and promotions is marketing is something that we're doing all the time, really, in terms of sharing information about how we, what we have to offer. And promotions are those short-term things, those campaigns, if you will, that typically offer a discount on something. So these are other things that you can do as you have your audiobook available. You can also offer bonus material that different from what you've already promised within the audiobook, which should be available to all your audiobook listeners. But you could also offer some bonus material that is as a reward for a promotion, right? That sort of thing. Now, targeted blogs, newsletters, magazine sites, these are you want to come back to thinking about who's your target market. We didn't talk about that earlier, but it should be fairly clear within the context of your goals. Who are you trying to reach? And if, for example, I have a project right now. It's a book written for middle grade kids, and it's about this teenage boy and his grandfather, and the kid goes back in time and is part of these historic huge fires. So the family is a family of firefighters. He goes back in time, and okay, so the author, his experience as a firefighter, a career firefighter, is that he has kids who will just like stop and their jaws drop because there is a kind of awe when you see the fire truck, right? But trying to reach that very general audience is it's not specific enough to know where to go with your marketing. However, there are lots and lots of firefighter related websites, blogs, stores online, unions, professional associations, these kinds of places where they already have a deep passion and connection with their own industry, we'll call it, service industry. But those places are going to be a more targeted set of locations where we're going to market his audiobook, which then will also, in the process of marketing his audiobook, we are going to be helping his print book sales as well. So those kinds of opportunities, look at places where you may be able to find a niche, right? Because your niche marketing is always going to be more powerful than your general trying to find everybody marketing. That just doesn't work. And then targeted advertising. That can be Google, that can be Facebook, and then it can also be advertising, for example, in the example I just gave, on the store that sells firefighter equipment, right? That might be a good place to advertise. So we want to look for those kinds of opportunities. And again, as you're thinking about this cross promotion or this cross marketing between your other products and services and your audiobook, because you're launching it new, it's also, even just as that, it is creating an opportunity for you to reach out with a downloadable product and to say, to put it out there that this new audiobook is available, and it can help, because we're using it to also leverage back to your other products and services. It's all going to help you in the promotion and marketing of your audiobook. So the main thing, again, is we're going to come back to, it's creating and enacting an overall plan. Set your goals, plan your pre-production, leverage your pre-production, market during that time. And during production itself, make sure that you are getting your audiobook producer to create those audio assets for you. And then meanwhile, also that you're getting any downloadable PDFs or whatever you want to offer on your website that you're going to have within the context of your audiobook as an offer, as an added value. Make sure that those are being developed so that you're ready when your audiobook launches. You look at your metadata for each of your products and services and figure out, think about, how can I make them connect with each other? On the web, so much of the value that we can gain is through those connection points. Not just putting it in different places, but connecting those dots, connecting the online dots. And then seizing post-launch opportunities. That can be anything from the video to putting the audiobook, posting it on your website, lots of different opportunities. And if you are looking at all of this and saying, oh my God, help, I don't know what to do, please reach out to us here at Pro Audio Voices. We love to help great stories come alive. That is our great passion. I have provided here a discount for the audiobook production and marketing plan, which is a pretty comprehensive plan for both preparing your production and leveraging your audiobook, as well as the marketing that can happen before and after and during that production process. So I want to thank you all for being here, and go forth and market and create and enjoy. And thank you for allowing me to be part of helping your great story come alive.